And we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. Just a little short live, spur of the moment video. We had a show on Christopher Noel's Impossible Visits channel the other night, Tuesday night, and it caused quite a sensation. And I think a lot of what we were talking about got misunderstood and misconstrued, and some videos have been made about it, and we just want to kind of set the record straight. And I know I do, and I'm sure Christopher does. And then we welcome Gregg Martini on, a logical voice for sure.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome, gentlemen. Putting together just the best stuff we have, what most people can agree on, the things that we have the best evidence for, and have a starting off point, something that we can mold and work with. And like I said, not everyone has to agree with it. It doesn't suppress anyone else's ideas. That's the comment, and that's what I was talking about. So what do you think?
I think that I failed to communicate clearly and effectively during the show the other night if so many people got the wrong impression. And piggybacking off what Kerry just said, I think that it's important that we come up with a cluster of solidly established facts, pieces of information about the species that at least enough of us think are solidly established, so that going forward we can speak with something approaching one voice. Because if we have different members of the movement, members of the group, saying divergent or contradictory things, then we have zero chance of penetrating our message or our brand into the mainstream society. And Kerry was just saying that it's important that we have a starting point that most of the community can agree on, and I want to add to that a set of aspect of the species that not only we can agree on as a community, and those who don't can not watch us, but that the larger society is likely to embrace down the road. See, whether or not I'm doing it effectively, I'm trying to be like a chess player looking several moves down the road, several moves ahead. And if we don't decide who's on board with our vision and our mission now, it's going to be muddy and fuzzy and nebulous when we start to gain national attention, start to gain more traction, and attempt to, as we see it, at least as we see it, educate the public as to what the species is like. Other groups can educate the public in their own way. We're trying to educate them in our way, and we can't afford to have any kind of cloudy message or self-contradictory message. Greg, you're a professional at messaging and branding.
Yeah, and I'll just introduce myself as someone that Christopher is invited on board to help set the brand up. So when you think about a brand, and let's talk about, like, say, Bosch drills, which it's a brand I've worked for. You can look at Bosch drills as drills, tools. It's a building experience. It's a rite of passage. It's all these ways you can look at the brand and how there are different parameters and how a brand is set up. When it comes down to it, it's a drill. Okay, so going out outside of our world and talking to people who aren't as informed, they have to have a clear sense of what it is let's face it, what we're selling, and my viewpoint is we've got evidence of a flesh and blood creature in terms of video, tracks, hair samples. So
scat, blood,
yeah,
saliva,
flesh and blood samples.
Yeah, right. All that. So that's probably the best chance, or the best format we're going to have for the best chance to gain credibility and do what it is we need to do, which one of the main things is to look at getting protection. You're going to talk to these folks in different bureaus and whatnot, and they're going to say, what is it you're about? And we have to make it as simple as possible. And when we start introducing different manifestations of what we think the creature is, then it's like Chris says, it gets muddy. So we got to be very clear about this. And it's the next important, maybe most important species to be discovered. And that's my viewpoint on it, and I think that's where Chris was getting. We're open to all kinds of divergent opinions and explorations and attitudes. We'd be really ignorant if we said we know everything there is to know about this creature, but what we need to do is treat it as such, a creature, so that we can get our message going and people know what we're dealing with. Like I said, it's a drill.
And it's a drill, and we need to boil down our message. And this is important for all viewers out there who are made skeptical or disappointed or alarmed by the show the other night. I don't know a lot about this species. I think I know certain core elements of the species that we could all kind of run through. What's most established over centuries of eyewitness reports. But there are things about the species that mystify all of us. But these can't be all pushed forward on board in our opening move in terms of our message to mainstream society, because it's going to be too much to digest. I think that we need to, as Gregg is saying, put first things first and prioritize those elements of our understanding of the species that seem best established. And then after we gain success and traction and momentum and begin to accomplish the things we want to accomplish in terms of spreading awareness and education, and we hope gaining some leverage for laws that protect both the Sasquatch species and help to enlighten us as to how to protect ourselves from some small percentage of them that may be dangerous to us.
Correct.
Then we can begin feeding in some of the more esoteric aspects of their being, how they manifest themselves, for discussion then. But we can't do it all at the same time. This is a strategic, tactical issue.
Right. I mean,
how we roll out our brand.
Yeah, which we're developing right now. And just think of it this way. I mean, I've come to the point where I'm more open about talking about the subject to anyone who's willing to listen to me. And
good man. Good man.
And I still hear like, there's more than one. I'm like, so then I got to go through a certain amount of like information. So to start bringing in other parameters that are beyond the norm, let's say, it's just, it's too much right now. It's just getting the people to realize this is a species, primarily nomadic to an extent, somewhat family-based, blah, 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 but, keeping it as simple as possible.
Right. And putting it kind of adjacent to things people already are able to accept, like gorillas, and human ancestry and human hybrids. I mean, that's not an easy thing to accept, but I think that Sasquatch is a human hybrid. But forget I said that. That can be down the road, right? But I mean, if you have it in the context of part of the zoological tree of life, then people who already can accept that are more apt to be able to accept this. I mean, you'll have Christians who won't believe in evolution, so we may not get them, but people who believe in evolution and understand that there's an animal kingdom out there and that this we're just adding as another very important piece of the animal kingdom, I think that's an advantage for us.
Yeah, well, I think part of, mentioning the word ideology, I think somewhat labeled us as ideologues.
There you go.
In certain people's minds, and that's not what I meant at all. And I think, on the flip side of people thinking that this is going to suppress and keep people from actually going out and truth, I feel exactly the opposite. I feel like having a base, what we can all agree on, or most of us can agree on. If you don't agree, you don't have to join in. Is going to make people want to forward it, go out and get something better. We have something up there, go get something that disproves it, and that's where it builds from and grows from. In my mind, is let's have a base, let's establish something that others that just look into this occasionally can look at and actually take seriously, because there's a lot of things that may be true or not that get poured in and woven into the fabric of this subject that turn a lot of people off. And in my mind, it's a lot of the paranormal stuff. And I think we just need to let's compartmentalize what we know. Okay?
It's a pragmatic necessity to compartmentalize, because the paranormal stuff, some of it is bound to be true. It's just a pragmatic, tactical question.
And that's what we need. We need more people in this subject, or no one. I'll say, how far have we gotten since the Patterson-Gimlin film, really? I mean, and I think a lot of people rested on that particular laurel that, this is as good as it's going to get right here. There are people out there actively trying, as hard as it is, to do. And we either haven't or made the hard sacrifice it's going to take to get the type of evidence that's going to convince enough people to get behind this. That's just how I see it. So we have to try. We can't not try.
Pending the next stroke of lightning, like Roger and Bob had, and like Kerry and his crew are going to have in Florida, pending and aside from this world-shaking evidence, there's a ton of compelling evidence and a whole package of obvious truth that if people would just spend 10 minutes looking into it, or an hour and a half, they too would begin to gain an appetite to learn more. And this is the education part. This is what Gregg and I and others are trying to think through in terms of how we can shoot an arrow that can penetrate, rather than a sort of a scattershot approach that wouldn't penetrate as far, in terms of our message and our well, Gregg.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we are shooting an arrow, and the easier the better. It's like the Declaration. It was not perfect, and there was a lot of arguments over parameters of it. But at the end of the day, it needed to get done.
What did you say? The Declaration of Independence?
Yeah, it just needed to get done.
Okay.
And then later on, things changed in the natural course of our government that spoke to those issues about the Declaration that weren't agreed upon, but it had to get done. And this is the same thing.
And what a great metaphor that is, because think about the Constitution. We put you go ahead and put that together in as concise and exhaustive a way as you can at the time, and then you have amendments down the road.
Right.
We can have sort of a manifesto, or whatever word you want to choose, Constitution, a mission statement that includes these core concepts of what we think are proven or close to being proven, and then we can add amendments down the way as new things come out.
Right. This is a lobbying effort, and you got to realize we're lobbying for something that no one's, for the most part, presented to people who are used to being lobbied. We're not, my sister's an advocate for Alzheimer's research. They know what that is. I mean, there's some disagreement, confusion sometimes, but it's a disease that, affects memory and is eventually fatalistic. And it's, so when we started dealing with this subject, the simpler, the better. And that's
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've already started this up. Sorry, Kerry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what I see is when you're trying to convince someone, okay, that these creatures are real, what do? Where do you go? I just believe if we had a place that had all the best stuff, the most convincing stuff in whoever's mind it is, to go and say, look, go look at this. It's all together. The Ketchum study, Patterson-Gimlin, Freeman footage, whatever, the experts talking about dermal ridges and the tracks and, the actual blood and tissue samples that we do have, that we know this is a flesh and blood creature. Whatever its abilities are aside, this is here.
Right.
Okay? A starting point for someone else to even begin to start looking into this, because that's what it's going to take. If I'm trying to convince someone, where am I going to take them?
Yeah. I don't know every resource that's out there, but I was telling Chris for a couple of times, if anyone, once I'm getting a discussion going, they're really interested, I tell them about the BFR.net's FAQs. Start there, and it just kind of walks you through what we know, and pretty much is conclusive.
According to them.
According to them.
Right.
And again, I say this is a site that's pretty much led by scientists and really, really good investigators. So start there. And because I don't want to explain it to them, honestly.
Yeah, that's the BFRO.net frequently asked questions, and also their North American database of encounters. There's thousands and thousands of them in there. This afternoon I've been working on a draft, my own personal draft of what we know, what's been established, what are the core, the simple core of agreed upon attributes of this species, and I'm going to post it on in Kerry's group, Bigfoot Odyssey, and in my group, Sasquatch and Civic Duty. And I welcome anyone to comment, add to it, suggest changes, suggest subtractions from the list if you can make a case for that, and then we can put together a sort of a consensus version. But we can't please everybody, and if you end up being angry with our view or find it to be too limiting, then we may just not be a good fit for you and for your vision, and we'd hate to lose anybody, but we can't please everyone if we're going to formulate this targeted approach.
I think what everyone should be aware of, though, is I think we've got the best chance of getting through and doing what we want to do, and I think in the best interest of everyone interested in this phenomenon species. So we often hear in this category a lot of infighting, and groups don't like this group, and they're holding back information. And if we can just kind of foster an attitude of positivity, because really the core mission of this is to the benefit of the species, no matter how you want to classify it or what attributes you want to attach to it,
and the benefit of the human race as well.
True. Yeah.
Our knowledge of who our cousins are, who our next of kin are on this earth. It's hugely consequential, just to put it mildly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, in my mind, as important as any of that is the history as well. There's a long history that goes back a lot further than 1967 or 1958. With Leif Erikson, Native Americans, there's a pretty storied history in us coming in contact with Sasquatch. So in my mind, that stuff is as important as any of it. It's not something new. It's not a new phenomenon. Someone told me a site to go to, big dog something, and the very second word on there was dog man. And I couldn't read any more of it. That's what anyone is going to look at and not take seriously.
That's a good example.
Not saying that they don't exist. We just don't have any good evidence for it. Not that I've seen. And I look under every leaf. 12 years I've looked under every leaf trying to find the best stuff. It's just Dogman is just not there for me.
When I posted my Dogman criticism video the other couple weeks ago, I got a lot of pushback, and I came to realize that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of eyewitness accounts of this creature. And if I'm giving so much credence to eyewitness accounts of the more traditional looking Sasquatch creatures, I need to give credence to those accounts too. But the issue again is one of paring down the message. We can't include everything up front. We can include it later on. Right. And if the notion of a dogman, given that term, will lead potential allies or audience members of ours to think that we believe that there's a cross between a dog and a human, even though that's not what many people who believe in the species think, then we have to hold it off for later. We have to defer certain aspects and front load or foreground other aspects that will capture the widest range of potential adherents and believers.
Yeah, it's a different topic. It's related maybe, but it's just going to cloud things. And to Christopher's point, I mean, I've talked to secondhand eyewitnesses. It was like a mother of a young man who had a dogman experience, and he was terrified. And the way he described it wasn't anything like a Sasquatch. And that's what he just, at the risk of sounding, insane or whatever, that's what he said he saw. So it's like, well, you just never know.
Right.
But that's another story.
It's an offshoot.
Another phenomenon.
To me, it doesn't matter as much what those of us that are already in this believe or know. To me, it's the person that doesn't know anything.
Right,
That's just coming in. That's just coming into this. What are we going to present to them? Dog man? I mean, we don't have very much good evidence for it. And it's just too easy to take someone's claim of dog man and say you're mistaken. They did it with Sasquatch for years until we got better evidence of it, you know. And just to reiterate, no one's trying to rein in anyone's ideas or
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Thought you were pausing there.
Well, I was. I get a little scatterbrained. You know,
right,
Daniela's usually in complete control of the whole show, and I'm usually completely out of control. So that's we only have the one dynamic here right now. So you guys just have to bear with me. But you know, no one's trying to rein in anyone's beliefs or ideas, or all we're talking about is a base, a starting point that I'm sure maybe people have tried before. I don't know, but I think if we get the right people, researchers, active researchers, the people that are going out and actually giving us something, a voice. All these people, give them a voice, a place to put what they believe they got, and it can be talked about, and let's get something convincing. That's what we need, something convincing. I'm going to put my effort in it.
No, you're doing a huge thing. It's great, and I think seems like you have a really good chance of getting something. You know, at the same time, you just never know. You know, some of these, of course, what they did the Patterson Gimlin, they were out there for a long time, and a lot of it was just kind of luck. You know, so
well, we're going to give ourselves the best chance. We're going to take everything that's going to give us the best chance that we know of. We're actually looking at Doppler to see if we can get a hold of some Doppler that sees through the trees, and there's actually one that can detect heartbeats. And I mean, Sasquatch, that's his military stuff. You know, Sasquatch's day is numbered because this technology is going to be available to the public readily before long.
Well, that's been all. Yeah,
you might want to rephrase that to say Sasquatch's days are numbered. Going to
get it.
Some resistance
to remain hidden. And you know, I've been getting kicked in the teeth a lot about this excursion that we're planning. And the email that I got just the day before yesterday was very interesting. It was long-winded and very worded about the species and what is exposing them going to do to them. And my thought is, this is not like hide and seek where they're just going to say, okay, you found us, now we're out in the open. You know, they're still going to stay. They're still going to stay hidden.
Exactly as they are now.
Exactly as they are now. I don't think there's anything we can do to wipe them out, or no matter what. I don't think it's possible.
I mean, the most we can do, the worst we can do is one of these hunters who's trying every single damn day to catch and to kill one of these things will succeed. That's the worst that can happen, and that's terrible. And that's what we're trying to prevent by spreading awareness and education. But there's never going to be open season. I mean, it's been open season on the species for decades and decades and decades. And apart from a certain number of anecdotal reports of them being shot, nothing has come in to be definitive on that score.
Yeah, we don't know. There may be some killed, but they were never captured. They were shot. That's for sure.
Right.
No, this is, and again, to something Chris said earlier, to help us, in the event of a meeting, so that they're protected, and hopefully we're protected. And honestly, this is a species that's really good at avoiding people, and at the same time being really close to people, making its presence known and not being visible. So I'm almost not worried about them, but.
And as I said in a video a little while ago about being on our side of the court, we're not trying to get from them anything they don't freely offer to us at thousands of places around North America every single day, which is information about how they behave and how they make overtures toward us, We're just trying to organize the information here on our side of the court, not
Right.
over onto their side of the court. We need to leave them alone physically, but keep learning about them.
Right, right. Yeah, they're not to be messed with. That's for sure. So,
Right.
yeah, it's interesting. It's like, where does this all go? And we've pretty much covered that, but my mind was just flitting along the lines of, you have plenty of people that have been habituating experiences, and for whatever reason, there's not a lot of evidence. I think it comes down to a trust situation. Once they start throwing in, like trying to get photography and whatnot, it screws everything up. Yet for everybody else that hears about it, it makes it seem kind of far-fetched, right?
Right, exactly.
But not speaking to Harry and the Hendersons, but like the idea of like a more domesticized experience would be amazing. Who knows? You don't know.
Well, everything seems to indicate otherwise. That they remain, they're not domesticatable as far as we can tell. That's why I hate that movie.
It got a lot of things right, which was kind of weird.
Well, I think these creatures are just palpably indifferent to us. I think they want to watch us. I don't think they like us. I don't think they want to be like us. This is just what I think, obviously, but my own personal experience is not good with these creatures.
Well, your experience is very clear cut, but many other people's experience are of interaction with them, not direct interaction, but indirect interaction, and lots of overtures at habituation sites, and people like Snow White Bigfoot being able to carry on an ongoing conversation for years with them through objects. So it's an indirect mediated kind of relationship that we can have with them. But many of them seem to be as interested and curious about us as we are about them. So, but the one you met certainly wasn't.
Yeah.